everybody. Looking forward to hearing from you.
All right, well, good morning, everyone. We're so excited to have so many friends join us this week. If this is your first time joining us for a World Wonders program, welcome. We've got today's program, and then we're back next week for the wrap-up of our summer series. But we've been having so much fun this summer with World Wonders, and it is a celebration of culture from around the world through interactive workshops, just like the one we have today. I do want to say a special thank you to our friends from the South Asia Center at the University of Pennsylvania, because they've been a huge support throughout the summer as Penn Museum has made these programs. So in just a second, Miss Sarah is going to take over and going to present a wonderful program for you today. But like Miss Allison just said, we're going to be asking you lots and lots of questions today. So take a look at your screen, find that chat function, because when Miss Sarah starts asking those questions, we want to make sure that you guys are ready to respond to them. All right, guys. Well, Miss Sarah, are you ready? Because the floor is yours.
All right. Well, thank you all for joining us. I'm going to share my screen here and we're going to get started. All right. Can everyone see this? How's it looking? Excellent. Okay. So as I said, my name is Sarah Lynn, Dr. Sarah Lynn. I am the research liaison at the Penn Museum, and I'm also a Greek archaeologist. So I worked in Greece for about 9 years before finishing my PhD and coming full-time to the museum. So today we're talking about a topic that is very near and dear to my heart. I worked at a Greek sanctuary for a long time, so we're talking about something related to Greek sanctuaries, and that is Greek votives. So we're talking about what they mean, and then at the end of this, we actually get to think about how we're gonna make our own votives. So what you're gonna need for this activity is simply a piece of paper and a pencil. So if you haven't already, I would encourage you to go and grab just a blank sheet of paper and a pencil. You won't need it right away. We're gonna talk a little bit about votives first, so you have a few minutes, but that's all you're going to need today. So first, I just want to situate us here with a quick map of the Mediterranean. Important for us to get the context right. So we're looking at the Mediterranean here. Here we have Spain, we have the northern coast of Africa. This boot-shaped thing is Italy, and we're talking about Greece, right? So this is modern day Greece. In the ancient world, it included not only its own Greek islands here and this big one down here, the island of Crete, where I also worked, but also the western coast of Turkey over here, and even parts of southern Italy and Sicily. So ancient Greece was pretty big, and we find votives all over the ancient Greek world. So what we're going to talk about today are just simply what are votives. We're going to talk about who they were actually given to, who they were dedicated to. We're going to talk about what they look like, and then at the very end, we're going to draw our own votives. So before we start talking about ancient votives, I want us to think a little bit about things that we do today in our modern world that are a lot like the ancient practice of creating and dedicating Greek votives. So here come my questions. Who has ever thrown a coin into a well? Maybe just put it in the chat or raise your hand. Who's ever done that?
Miss Sarah, seeing lots of people saying they've done it.
Awesome. Okay, great. So you've done something like create and dedicate a Greek votive. Who has ever given a tooth to the tooth fairy? Maybe raise your hand or put it in the chat. It's been a while, but I definitely did that.
Lots of people are saying they've definitely done that too, Miss Sarah.
Awesome. Okay, great. And how about this one? Has anyone ever, maybe you have, maybe you haven't, dedicated or left out cookies for Santa?
We're getting lots of yeses. Someone said they've totally done it.
A few people have done it. All right. So now I want us to think about why we do these things. So maybe respond in the chat. Think back to those times that you put a coin in a well and tell me why you did that. What was the point of putting that coin in that well? What sorts of reasons do we have for putting coins in wells?
Someone said good luck. Someone else said traditions, a wish to pay the well elf, or because you want something to happen.
I love that. Right, you want something to happen, you're making a wish, maybe just for good luck. Okay, how about the tooth fairy? Why do you leave that tooth for the tooth fairy. If you think about it, it's kind of funny, right, that we do this, but it's a great practice. Why do you do that? What are you hoping for with that tooth?
A couple people are saying money.
Money.
A present.
Okay. Great. Those are all good answers, right? So you leave a tooth and you get something in return, right?
Mm-hmm.
All right. And how about cookies for Santa? Why do we do that? What's the reason for that one?
Someone said when you get something, you give in return.
So you give something back in return, right? So Santa might leave you presents, and you want to leave something in return, maybe as a way to say thank you, right? Thanks for these gifts. Here's something in return, right? So all of these votives, you give something and you hope to get something in return, or you're saying thank you. And that's exactly what votives are. Ancient Greek votives are exactly like that coin you put in the well, or those cookies, right? The cookies that you leave for Santa to say thank you, or, right, like that coin, to express a wish or a desire, maybe just good luck, maybe you want something to come true. And that's exactly what the ancient Greeks did with their gods. They had to be given to someone, right? So your tooth doesn't just go to anyone, right? Someone needs to understand what to do with these types of teeth, right? So you probably won't do that for Santa. Santa will be confused about that tooth, right? Not a tooth guy, right? He's really like a gifts guy. He wants cookies in return. So, but if you give it to the tooth fairy, she knows what she's about, and she's a tooth fairy, so she knows what to do with those teeth, and she's gonna leave you something in return. So much like the tooth fairy and Santa, the ancient Greeks gave gifts to their gods, and those gods needed to understand what those gifts meant, right? It had to relate to something that they were in charge of. Just like Santa's in charge of presents and the tooth fairy's in charge of teeth, the ancient Greek gods had specific realms that they were in charge of. And the ancient Greeks would leave them gifts, much like we do, as a way to say thank you or to express a wish. So here we just have an ancient Greek woman maybe leaving some gifts for this Greek god on the side here. Can anyone actually help me identify this Greek god? Maybe you don't know anything about the Greek gods, which is totally fine, and we're gonna learn a lot about them, but maybe you do, and maybe you can recognize this person here on the right. There might be some clues in what this god has on his or her face, what they're holding, maybe some of the other animals around them.
Got a lot of people guessing it's Zeus.
A lot of people guessing it's Zeus. Well, those people are correct. They are awesome. And how did they know it was Zeus?
Someone said the eagle.
The eagle is a very big giveaway, right? Zeus and eagles go together.
Someone else is saying the eagle tipped them off too.
Eagle, well, they are absolutely right. Zeus is also often shown with a beard to show that he's an older man. He's often shown seated, right? Sort of in like royal majesty. And here he's holding something really special in his right hand. And I'm hoping that maybe someone can help me identify what Zeus is holding in his right hand.
Someone said they see him holding a ball with a woman.
A ball with a woman. Does that woman have anything special about her?
Someone asked if it's Athena.
Athena, that's a good guess. Athena is sometimes often depicted with this person. So if you look really carefully at this woman on that ball, she has wings, right? And she's carrying something that looks like a crown. So this is who we call winged Nike, or as we call it today, Nike. So does anyone have a pair of like Nike shoes by any chance? How do we identify Nike shoes?
The logo and a swoop.
That swoosh, right? That swoosh. So Nike comes from Nike, and that swoosh is supposed to look like the wings that winged Nike or winged Victory is always wearing, because Victory is winged, right? So every time you're wearing those Nike shoes, they want you to know that you are victorious. So this is Zeus, and he is usually victorious, right? He's the king of the gods, so he gets to be pictured with Nike or Nike. So Now we're going to talk about some of the other Greek gods and their jobs, what they are in charge of, right? And what types of votives we might give to them because of the jobs that they're in charge of. So here's a quick image from the Hellenistic period in Greece. This shows a bunch of different gods, and we're going to go through a few of them and see if you can figure out who they are by the things that they're wearing or the things that they're holding. We call these attributes, right? So maybe they're holding a staff, maybe they're wearing a helmet, and all of these things help us to know who that god is and what their jobs are. So let's start with this god right here. We're going to zoom in and take a look at this one. Let's take a look at what this god is holding and wearing, and let me know in the chat if you can identify this one. Who might this god be?
A couple people are guessing that it's Aries.
Okay. They are correct. This is Aries, right? You're absolutely right. You guys know your Greek gods pretty well, I'm guessing. So here we can tell this is Aries because he's holding a spear and a shield. He's wearing a helmet. Aries is often shown with these things and sometimes also with hunting dogs. And Aries is the Greek god of war. Very well done. I'm super impressed already. All right, a couple more of these. How about this god here? We're gonna zoom in and take a look. In the left-hand side, or my left-hand side, you can see this god is wearing a helmet and has a spear. There's also something right behind them here. Can anyone tell me maybe who this is?
So we've got a couple guesses that this might be Athena.
You guys are so good. I'm super impressed. You're absolutely right. This is Athena. She is a really fascinating goddess. She's often shown with a helmet and a spear, with an aegis, which is sort of like a shield. Sometimes she's shown with an owl, which is sort of her animal, much like the eagle is for Zeus. And she's also associated with olive trees and branches, right? Because she actually gives the Athenians, who name their city after her, Athens, she gives them the olive tree. And that becomes a really big, important thing for them religiously and economically. And that's why she's associated with the olive. So this is Athena, goddess of war and wisdom. Very well done. All right. One more. How about this god right here? We're gonna zoom in. Can anyone tell me who this one is?
Oh, we got fast responses for this, Miss Sarah. And
okay.
Everyone's guessing it's Poseidon.
Well, you guys are just nailing it because that's absolutely who this is. This is Poseidon. And Poseidon is often shown, again, with a beard like Zeus, right? They're brothers, so they're of an age. They're older gentlemen. And Poseidon is the god of the sea. So he's often shown with a trident, sometimes with horses. He's also associated with earthquakes, interestingly, and with dolphins. So Poseidon's a really interesting god too. Okay, well, you guys are so good at this that I don't see a reason for us to keep going, but I wanna know if you can just name a few of the other Greek gods. We have a few other ones pictured here. These are the 12 Olympians, the gods who live on Olympus. So maybe you can name some of them. I'm curious to know who else you know. And this is gonna come in handy later.
Well, we saw earlier in our chat, someone mentioned Hermes. Right now we have people saying Hera, Artemis, Apollo, Demeter. Waiting for some more responses.
You guys are so good. Okay, someone named Apollo. Tell me what Apollo is the god of and what we might see with that god. Does anyone know?
Someone said god of the sun, poetry,
Definitely associated with music and with Helios. Actually, so we are looking at Apollo right over here, and he is carrying what is called a lyre, sort of like an ancient guitar or harp, the small harp. So that's absolutely Apollo. He's also associated with bow and arrow, and also both with healing and with disease. He's an interesting guy, all over the place. Love him. Maybe name like one or two more and then we'll move on. Who else do we have? Someone named Demeter. Can someone tell me who Demeter or Demeter is? What she's in charge of, what her job is?
Some people are saying gardens, agriculture.
Agriculture and the harvest specifically, right? So we have Demeter right here, and she's shown both with a staff, but most importantly with these sheaves of wheat right here, because she's in charge of the all-important harvest, right? all that food that we need to sustain us. So she's super important, and people often make a lot of dedications of votives to her, to Demeter. Well, you guys are brilliant and know your Greek gods. So I think we're in very good shape to move on to talk about some votives. Here you go. You already knew all of this stuff. So fantastic, right? So my point here is that one, you know them all, but two, that they're all different. They all have different jobs. And you wouldn't appeal to Zeus by making a votive in the same way that you would to Artemis. So let's say, you know, you're going for a hunt and you want a rabbit. You're not going to go to Zeus because Zeus doesn't know what to do about the hunt, right? He's in charge of weather. You're going to go to Artemis because she knows what she's about, and it's about hunting, right? So she's going to help you out. So they're all different. In addition to being dedicated to someone, they have to represent something, right? So they need to represent the thing that you are either thanking someone for or wishing or desiring, right? So in order for that person or that god to make sense of what it is that you want or that you're thanking them for, it needs to look like that thing. That helps them understand what it is they need to do to help out. So let's say you have an earache, right? Your ear hurts and you want it to feel better. You might go to one of these two gods. Asclepius is the god of healing. He's also associated with Apollo, but he has his own sanctuaries all around the Greek world because people needed things to be healed. And they would go and visit Asclepius, and sometimes his daughter, whose name is Hygieia. And that word might look kind of familiar to you. It's related to the word hygiene. So what do your parents mean when they ask you to have like good hygiene? What's that about?
That's a great question. Someone said that we should be clean.
We should be clean, right? So she is the goddess of cleanliness, Hygieia, hygiene. And the Greeks understood that cleanliness and healthfulness, right, being healthy and being clean often went together. And that's why Hygieia, cleanliness, is the daughter of the god of health, Asclepius. So they're often put together, right? So now more than ever, we're being told to wash our hands all the time. And like the ancient Greeks, we should have good hygiene so we can stay healthy. So I want to, before we move on quickly, I want us to look really quickly at what Asclepius is holding right here. Can anyone help me identify what Asclepius has right here? Any ideas?
A couple people are guessing that it might be a snake or a serpent. Someone pointed out the staff too.
Well, you guys are great because that's exactly what it is. It's a staff with a serpent wrapped around it. And that's what Asclepius, the god of health, is always shown with. And we still use this today to mean health and healing. So this staff and the snake are shown on the Star of Life that you'll find on an ambulance. It's also used by the American Medical Association and the World Health Organization. So now you guys understand when you see these things, which are all over the place right now, this is all about the ancient Greek god Asclepius, the god of healing, because we still use this today. All right, enough of that. Back to your earache, right? Your ear hurts, you're gonna go to Asclepius, and you're gonna do something to ask Asclepius and his daughter Hygieia to help your ear feel better, right? So you might make a votive that looks just like an ear, and here's a real one, right? This is someone asking Asclepius to make their ear feel better, right? And we're gonna work on our own votives in just a bit, but think about sort of how someone went from that earache to asking the god Asclepius to make their ear feel better. Or let's say you stub your toe, right? But now you're feeling better, right? And you wanna say, thank you, Asclepius, for making my foot feel better. You might make a dedication like this, and this says, Asclepio kai Hygieia tike evcharisterion. And that means Tike dedicated this to Asclepius and Hygieia as a gift of thanks. And the way you say thank you in Greek is evcharisto, right? And a gift of thanks is an evcharisterion, right? A gift of thanks. So this is actually what we find at temples of Asclepius. We find body parts from people saying, please heal this, or thank you for healing it. So let's move on. Let's say you wanted to say thank you, or let's say you wanted to go win at the Olympics, right? You are going to the Olympics and you want to win. You might first go to the site of Olympia, right? You might go to the temple of Zeus, because Zeus is in charge of Olympia and the Olympics, and you might make a dedication. What would you dedicate? What would represent winning at the Olympic Games, what might you make your votive look like?
Oh, someone said Nike.
Nike, goddess of victory. I love it. That's perfect. What else?
We've got medals, trophies.
Medals and trophies. Those are often things that we associate with winning. The ancient Greeks, and sometimes we still do this today, the ancient Greeks used an olive wreath. Remember, the olive is a super important thing to the Greeks, and they use an olive wreath to mean winning. So this is an ancient Greek athlete you see on the right getting crowned with an olive wreath. And I think this is a soccer team in 2004 getting crowned with their olive wreaths in Athens, right? Because that's what that means. It means victory. So you might make an olive wreath and dedicate it to Zeus to say, hey, I want one of these. I want to win at the Olympic Games. How about if you wanted to win a chariot race? What would you make to symbolize a chariot race? Now you're an ancient Greek and you're gonna go compete in a chariot race. What would that look like?
Someone said a chariot wheel maybe, or
Okay.
Athena, or
Okay.
a horse head, or a horse.
Head. All of these things absolutely would work. I just wanted to show you this really cool one. This is called the Delphi Chariots here. It was found at the sanctuary of Apollo in Delphi. And it's a full life-size, really cool bronze statue of a guy named Polyzalus, who dedicated this to make him prosper. And he's dedicating that to Apollo because he wants to win this chariot race. What about if you wanted to say, thank you for winning a battle? What might represent a battle? Any ideas of how you would say thank you for helping me win that battle?
So we've got a lot of responses. Someone said a sword, maybe Aries armor, a spear, a sword and a piece of stone.
Awesome.
Aries again.
All of these things are great ideas. I was thinking too of helmets, right? So maybe this is something that the ancient Greeks wore a lot when they went into battle. And they might say thank you to Zeus for helping them win that battle, right? Zeus won a lot of battles himself. And actually, when you go to the site of Olympia, the sanctuary of Zeus, we find tons and tons of helmets. So probably a lot of people saying thank you or asking Zeus to help them win something like a battle. How about Demeter? We talked a little bit about her. So remember what she does? She's in charge of the harvest. How might you represent that if you wanted to say thank you to Demeter?
A couple people are saying food.
Food, absolutely. You're absolutely right. You might make a dedication of actual food like fruits or bread, or you might make it out of clay. It'll last longer and then you can eat the food instead of dedicate it, right? So you might make a fully clay table with fruits and vegetables, maybe some wine. The ancient Greeks liked wine. And this is actually a votive that you can find in the Penn Museum here on the left, this clay one. So pretty cool. You might make it out of clay. All right, so we've learned a lot about votives. We talked about the fact that they need to represent the thing that you are wishing for or thankful for, and that they need to be dedicated to someone. So now you're gonna take that piece of paper and that pencil that you have, and we are going to walk through how to make your own votive. We're gonna draw it out first. Okay, so grab your piece of paper, right? Lay it flat. Thank you, Miss Allison, fantastic. And then I'm gonna ask you to just fold it in half. Perfect, yep, fold that piece of paper right in half. Very nice, okay. So then on the top of that sheet of paper, just quickly draw a line right at the top. Take your pencil and draw that line. And right under that, I'm gonna have you draw a box. Doesn't have to be perfect, just needs to be a box right under that line. This is where we're gonna draw our votive. So make a nice box, leave enough room for you to draw inside of it. And then right under that, just one more line. Awesome, Miss Allison, that's a great box. All right, and then one more line. Okay, so this is how we're gonna work through our own votives. So first step is I just want you to brainstorm. And by that, I just mean think about what it is that you are thankful for or what it is that you're wishing for, right? That's sort of what these votives are. So the first step is just to think about what you're thankful for or what you're wishing for. And I'm curious to know, what you all are wishing for or what you're thankful for. So if you wouldn't mind putting in the chat, I'd love to hear a little bit more about you and what you're wishing for.
Someone said they're wishing for COVID to end.
Yes, I absolutely agree with that.
Someone said they're thankful for their family.
Thankful for your family, that's wonderful. What
Thankful
else?
for their health.
For their health.
Someone's wishing for a puppy, or
A
they're thankful
puppy?
for their puppy. I'm not sure which, but both are great.
Wishing for or thankful for, both wonderful.
Someone mentioned roses and animals.
Animals, awesome.
Someone said they're thankful for their house.
Fantastic. These are all such great answers, and I like all of them. So the next step is, once you have that thing in your mind, that thing you're thankful for or you're wishing for, I want you to write it on that top line, right? So this is just my example. I'm actually drinking a cup of tea right now. I am thankful for tea. Tea makes me happy, it makes me a little bit more awake, but really it also just brings me a lot of comfort on a rainy day here in Philadelphia, and I love tea. So next step, we're gonna brainstorm again. We're gonna take that thing we just wrote on that line, that thing we're thankful for or wishing for, and think about how we can represent it, right? So for me, I'm thinking, how am I gonna represent tea? What would someone notice and know meant tea? So think about how you might represent that thing. So I'd love to hear what you're thinking of. If you could put in the chat what you are thankful for and how you're gonna represent that, what you're wishing for and how you would represent it in your sketch here.
So someone said they're thankful for Cheez-Its and they would put a box.
I love that. I love Cheez-Its. Is that Miss Allison? I know she loves Cheez-Its.
It is. Someone said that they would represent no COVID or the end of the pandemic with a vaccine.
A vaccine, that's a great idea. Love
Someone
that.
said they're thankful for food and they might draw Demeter.
Oh, awesome. That's a great idea. That's another way that you can do votives, is you can appeal to the god by making an image of them. That's a great idea.
Someone said they draw the snake and staff for the end of the pandemic.
Great idea, right? World Health Organization, American Medical Association, please help us.
And that's all we've got so far.
That's all we've got so far.
Are thinking.
Keep thinking about it. And then I'm gonna ask you to sketch your votive and put it in that box right there. So for me, I was thinking about how I might represent tea. I'm thankful for tea, and I thought a teapot. I think that I'm not the best artist, don't judge, but hopefully whoever I dedicate this to will understand that I am thankful for tea by this teapot here. So just give you a little bit of time. Awesome. Cheez-It box, Miss Allison. Fantastic. I love it. So if you can all just keep drawing your sketch in that box. You don't have to finish today. You don't have to finish right now. We're just sort of going through the steps here, but you can always come back to that sketch if you don't finish it. But I'll give you just maybe a few more seconds to finish your sketch up if you want to. And then we're gonna move on to the last step here, which is dedicating your votive. So we're gonna use that last line. I want you to think about who you're gonna dedicate your votive to, right? So who might this go to who would understand what it is that you are asking for or what you're thankful for? So I'd love to hear what you're thinking. I'll just share mine quickly. I'm dedicating my teapot to my mom because that's how I started drinking tea, was with my mom. We would have long conversations and drink comforting tea. So I'm dedicating it to my mother who taught me all about tea. How about you all? Miss Allison, can you read it? I can't see.
I do have access to my microphone, yes. To Sienna, because that's our favorite snack to enjoy, so.
Mom and daughter snacks, I love it. I think there's a theme here. Does anyone else want to share in the chat who they're actually dedicating their votive to and why they chose that person or that god or that being?
Mm. So one of our friends, I believe this is one of our friends who said that they were going to draw to the end of COVID and a vaccine, said they're dedicating it to doctors and scientists.
Awesome. I think they will know what to do with that. That's a great idea. Great idea. All right, so we have finished our steps for brainstorming and thinking about what our votive would look like. And if you want to take it to the next step, you can make your own votive, right? So here are just some examples of votives that I've seen people make in the past. So you can make this out of anything, really, anything that you can model into a three-dimensional thing. So something like model magic or Play-Doh. You can even use tinfoil, right? You can just mold that tinfoil into a shape. So here's some examples. Someone was thankful for their dog, thankful for their best friend. I think here this person was hoping to win a tennis game, right? So they made a tennis shoe to symbolize that they really wanted to win that tennis game. So I encourage you all, if you have time or you're interested in doing this, is to make your sketch into a three-dimensional votive. And then you can even give it to someone if they're nearby as a way to say thank you or to express a wish. So we also really want to see what you drew and what you're going to make. Either way, we'd love to see a picture of it. If you can share your votive either on social media at the Penn Museum Facebook or Instagram account, or if you don't want to use Instagram or Facebook, you can send it to our education@pennmuseum.org email. We'd love to see what you came up with. I really want to know more about your votive, so please do send us those things. And finally, whenever you can make it back into the Penn Museum, we are open right now, and you can actually see some of these votives on display. So I mentioned this one up here. This is on display in our Rome gallery. You can go and see this food votive, maybe dedicated to someone like Demeter as a way to say thank you. You could also see this foot votive. I think someone was either thankful or hoping that their foot would feel better. You can see this on display in our Etruscan gallery. And we have a few other votives, like this really cool horse and rider figurine from the site of Kourion on Cyprus. So whenever you can make it to the Penn Museum, we would love to see you, and you'll have some old friends waiting for you there. So thank you so much. This has been a blast. I'm so impressed with your knowledge of the ancient Greek gods, and I can't wait to see more about your votives. And I'm happy to take any questions. So I'm just gonna stop sharing and open it up and see if anyone has any questions for me.
Great. Thank you so much, Miss Sarah. That was a lot of fun. I know I'm looking forward to making a votive later today, and I hope to see lots from our friends later. Just a reminder, guys, if you have questions, go ahead and put them into the chat. We've got a couple minutes and we can ask Miss Sarah anything about her workshop, or if you have any questions about Greek gods, this is the girl to ask. All right, well, while we're waiting for some responses to come in, Miss Sarah, do you have a favorite votive at Penn Museum that you like to visit when you're in the galleries?
That's a good question. I do really love that foot votive in the Etruscan World gallery. I think it's just a lot of fun and very relatable, right? Someone who stubs her toe frequently. I think a foot votive would really come in handy. But I also really love that Roman votive. It's so intricate. Someone put a lot of time and effort into that one, right? Carving and creating, modeling all of those fruits to be very specific. So I think that one's a lot of fun because you can actually see a craftsman putting a lot of time and energy into making a gift, for a god. So maybe I like both of those.
Oh, those are great options. I'm gonna have to go look for them next time I'm in. We have a question from our friends asking, why did the Greek gods fight all the time?
Oh, that's a great question. I wish I had a very straightforward answer for you. The Greek gods kind of resembled the Greeks themselves, who did a lot of fighting amongst each other, right? The Athenians and the Spartans. They were fighting with outside powers too, right? The Persian Wars. So I think a lot of ways the Greek gods sort of resemble the daily lives of the Greeks themselves too. And but they had pretty epic battles, right? Actually, if you ever get to see the Parthenon, on all sides of the Parthenon, there's a frieze, and it has all the different battles, right? It's really historic, momentous battles. So, and we call those, it's a machi, right? So the Titan Amaki, the battle with the Titans. And that's when Zeus comes to power and he beats back all the Titans. We have the Amazon Amaki, right? Which is when Lapiths and when they fought the Amazons, right? They went to battle with the Amazons. We also have the Trojan War scenes, and then we have a gigantomachy. They're fighting the giants. So, you know, sometimes I think the Greeks are fighting outside powers, much like the Greeks were fighting the Persians, and sometimes they're fighting amongst themselves. The Titans themselves were godlike. So not a great answer, but I think, you know, that's what they were all about. They were gods of fight. There were so many gods of fighting, and that's what their jobs were.
Great. Well, I don't see any other questions coming in right now, and we are at time. So I just want to say one more thank you to Dr. Sarah Lynn for this fantastic workshop, and for all of our friends who joined us this morning. I had a great time. I hope you had a great time. And just a reminder, we'll be back next Wednesday at 11 a.m. with another Penn Museum World Wonders program, which is all about a very specific Indian dance. Miss Allison's going to drop that link in the chat. If you have not registered, I encourage you to do so. Now, if you're looking for something more to do this morning, right at noon, the CILC has another fantastic program brought to you by one of our collaborators, and it is all about ancient sea monsters by the Moat Marine Laboratory. And again, if you haven't registered yet, we encourage you to do so. It will start at noon, and it should be a lot of fun. So with that, I hope everyone has a wonderful Wednesday, and we hope to see you next week.
Thanks, everyone.
Much, Sarah. This was so fun. Bye, everyone.
Bye, everyone. Have a great day.